Welcome to another episode of The Best Revenge is Good Living podcast. Now, your host, Larry Oaks.
Do we have intellectual property? What is intellectual property? Where does it come from? And if we do have intellectual property, how do we claim it? How do we control it? Well, yet we do have intellectual property. Everything that is created, it comes from a thought. It comes from somebody thinking and using their education, using the things that they have learned, the education or the life experience, or being apprenticed, going through an apprenticeship, learning something that they take and then they start creating. They utilize that and they create their own, right? And everything that we have on this earth that's been created has been from somebody sitting down and critically thinking. And one of the biggest problems going on these days is that nobody thinks critically anymore. Nobody stops and takes time out to think. And especially the younger generation, but even people my age and in between. We're so stuck on technology. We're so addicted to phones and to things like Facebook or Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, these things, and we get caught up. First thing we do is we wake up and we put those devices on, and we start putting our energy and thoughts into that space. But intellectual property is something that we have to control, that we have to claim. We have God-given rights. We have God-given abilities, and we can hone those abilities by learning trades, being mentored, going out and just trying and failing and learning from our failures and gaining more and more experience and doing that. That's why some of the most successful people, they're not formally educated. They don't have some diploma or a plaque up on the wall. They are what they call self-made. They went out, they were they got in contact with somebody that was doing what they wanted to do, and they were trained. Who is it? The inspirational speaker, Robbins. I can't think of his first name right now, but Jim Rohn, what I believe was his first teacher that taught him, the power of the mind and the power of positivity, right? And now he monetized it. Now he's got a huge, empire teaching people how to overcome, their fears, and how to tap into what is their intellectual property, right? Is to their thoughts. And Dr. Bruce Lipton actually, through his studies, has identified the what they called is the let's see here, it's called ATP, is a manufactured nucleotide used in cells, and it's what they call molecular unit of currency, right? It's our intellectual energy transfer, ATP, right? It's our molecular energy transfer. It's literally currency. We trade here in the United States and actually around the world in the petrodollar, the United States reserve note, the dollar, right? And we trade our labor for some type of a compensation. Typically, it's Federal Reserve notes. But those Federal Reserve notes are only as valuable as we give them value, right? It's just paper. It's basically a promissory note. There's no value behind it. But because the United States of America is the country that it is, and that people have faith that our population through our labor is going to back that currency, then it's got value. That takes me back to intellectual property. All too often, the people that are in power, the so-called powerful people, the so-called wise people, the intellectuals, and you can hear them. They had a thing on I seen this clip from Don Lemon. He had a couple of people on there, and they're laughing about Trump supporters. They're laughing about how smart they are and how, snooty they are and how dumb Trump supporters are or conservatives are, right? So you can hear them. We've all seen them, these professors, these university professors, and the way that they think, and it's all based on the concept that they are smarter than others because they have some type of doctorate, or they have some type of diploma, or they have some type of, education. But the politicians, the kings, the royals, the so-called sophisticated elites, they couldn't do the things that it takes on a day-to-day basis to make civilization run. They don't know anything about plumbing. They don't know anything about electricity. They don't know anything about agriculture. They don't know anything about heating and air. All these type of tradesmen and people that in the medical field, just everybody, everyday people that have learned the skill, that have went through some type of, they have had education, but it's hands-on education, car mechanics, in automobile mechanics, diesels, whatever you want to call it, airplanes, all the things that they use and they take for granted. Everyday people know how to do these things. And if people would start understanding the power of their intellectual property, of their ATP, of their intellectual unit of currency, right? The reason why my time is more valuable than somebody else's time is the value that I put on it. It's the information that I know and the value that I bring to someone when we are interacting in some type of a deal or some type of cooperation. If you don't have value, if you're not bringing anything to the deal, if you're just a laborer, which there's nothing wrong with being a laborer, then you're not going to demand the same amount of compensation as somebody who does have a higher amount of skills or of more value. And I'm a strong proponent of bringing things local. See, this federal government has proved that it can't do the things that need to be done in a cost efficient way, in a timely way. There's too much bureaucracy. There's too many chiefs and not enough Indians. Everybody wants to be the boss. Nobody wants to be the worker. So when I hear people talking about our debt, the United States debt, we have, the debt clock and what we owe, and they don't understand that our debt or what we are as a country is being backed by us worker bees, by our labor, by our intellectual property. We're not taking control of our intellectual property. We're allowing these created entities, these government agencies, whether it be federal, state, or local, to control the creator. We created this government. Now, most people these days, they're too busy watching the Kardashians, or they're too busy watching, YouTube, or they're too busy watching any other athletic, game, or some type of event. And it's like, who's got time for all that? I'm busy trying to put bread on the table. I'm busy trying to, make enough because the gas prices are going up. And this is the hamster wheel that they have us in, right? This is why I talk about owning your concepts, owning what you create. Because if you have control of your content, you're able to control the value of your content, and you're able to command the amount that you want. Now, when you're starting out, or there's 1,000 reasons why you may not be able to monetize it. But if you do what you love, instead of do what you have to do, if you do what you love, you can always monetize it. You can always make a living from it. That's why artists, they're able to create whatever they create, and it may be a meager existence, but it's an existence that is more fulfilling because they're doing what they love and they're getting by. They're able to make a living. It may not be $1 million or $1 billion or anything in between. It may be, a few, tens of thousands or whatever it is, but they're able to get by. And that's why you see the Michael Jacksons of the world that have hundreds of millions of dollars, but they're miserable. They can't sleep. They gotta take supplements, and they have to have people around them all the time because they're troubled. It's lonely at the top. People think that having a lot of wealth is the answer, but we all know that it's not. We all know that if you've come to a place in your life where you're doing well, you're earning enough compensation through your labor and through your intellectual property to have a living that is comfortable, where you're able to not just pay the bills and get by, but you're able to actually have some money to do things, to have some entertainment in your life, and do things that you weren't able to do maybe when you're starting out in life. Then that sometimes you were better off when you had less. I know for me and my family, when I was the only one working, my wife stayed home with my children. We didn't have any cable. We had no telephone. We had nothing but a roof over our head and some food in the fridge. We didn't have any kind of luxurious amenities throughout the house. I think we were happier. It was a simpler life, but I've always been driven. I always thought that, that success in life and happiness in life is to attain things, and it's funny because in 2012, I had the best year of my life, financially, but it was the worst year of my life, in my life, in my relationship life. I made all this money and my family was falling apart. And I came to the realization that what's it worth to have all the money in the world if you have no one to share it with, or if you're unhappy, right? So this is when, I've been, the concepts that I'm talking about and the things that I talk about with energy and frequency and perception and, intellectual property and God-given rights, and all these things are things that have been years in the making by being an independent person and having to fend for myself. There's no one place that I've learned any of these concepts. It's over years and time and different people and all these different categories and these different things that are in my brain, but they're pieces of the puzzle that need to be in place. And that's part of my own intellectual property. Right. And, knowing that you can bring yourself up from nothing to any place in society, as far as, how do you say it? Economically, there's story after story after story of successful people that went from on the streets to multi-millions. A lot of times it's in entertainment. or providing entertainment, or building something where you can build revenue through advertisement. Because as I said in previous episodes, where money has always been is in advertising, is being able to sell tickets or sell products or market products and just get the eyeballs, right? Just have an audience that is willing to come see you, and then they're able to put their brand or their product out in front of those people, and then you get paid accordingly, right? Based on your intellectual property. But when you believe that other people have a way for you to, if you just don't want to do things on your own, and you want to get a manager, or you want to get, an attorney, or you want to get someone to come in and help you, because we can't all learn. You can't all be masters of everything. Smart people get people that they trust and get people that have experience to do these things for them. But you have to be hands-on. You have to be involved. That's why so many people that come from nothing and end up with wealth through their intellectual property, through their thoughts, through their mind, through their creation, get used, right? Because they allow other people to take care of their day to day, and they don't have any hands on in it. And anytime you set up a situation like that, and people that are selfish and greedy and manipulative and liars and all the things that are bad energy, they're going to slip in there. They're going to slip in there, and they call it human nature, right? They call it human nature because there's a prince of the power of the air here on this earth, and he interjects on our brain, on our frequency. He interacts with us through the frequency of our mind since we're very little, 6 months old, and he interjects those feelings of jealousy and anger and envy and anxiety and depression and everything that's not love. The prince of the power of the air is injecting these things into you, and you have to be aware of them. You have to be aware of those feelings, and you have to overcome those feelings through love, through understanding. Because if you don't understand, if you're ignorant of things, then that brings the fear, that brings the uncertainty, right? And so many times people don't really understand the power of their intellectual property, the power of their thought. The power, they create something, right? They have an idea, and then they go to some third party and they say, "Hey, I have this idea, right? Or I wrote this poem, or I wrote this song, or I wrote this screenplay, or I did this," and they feel as if they don't have the means to produce it, or they don't have the means to bring it to the world. And then you get these entities coming in here that are waiting to go ahead and take advantage of that, right? And so what I'm doing here, is encouraging people to start understanding that their intellectual property is their value, that everything on this earth is created through a thought, through a critical thought, and that our minds can be sharpened and they can be dulled. And all these things that are out there are there just for you to make a decision and for you to make a choice. Do you want your mind to be dulled, or do you want your mind to be sharpened? And to seek out people, whether it's formally or informally, to mentor. There's books out there. Listen, but don't, fall in love and think it's gospel. Have a good foundation, understanding of self, of your value, of your worth, and utilize all this information to bring up your value and set your price. And don't allow others to come in and take advantage of you. Be smart. Give out a few points, because you need them. You know, I'm a strong proponent to have a good accountant, to have a good attorney, you know, and if need be, somebody to manage your day to day. But make sure that you're hands-on. Make sure that you know what's going on, and take control of your intellectual property is very, very important. Stay in your conscious mind. Stay in the here and now. Stay in your creative mind, and allow your value to rise. So for The Best Revenge is Good Living, I'll see you soon. Life, the best revenge is good living. This has been another Pure Entertainment production. All names have been changed to protect the innocent. Remember, like, share, subscribe to that bitch. Peace.